Welcome back to Dying Out Loud, the podcast where we say the things that matter in the time that we have. Today's episode celebrates the enduring friendship between myself and Nickie Gibbs, which began more than a decade ago at Platform Advertising. Nickie and I became inseparable friends, sharing so many hours together, living, laughing, and making the most out of life and the time that we had with each other. When I first received my cancer diagnosis in my late 30s, Nickie's steadfast support became a lifeline. The presence, the encouragement, and the loyalty really not only helped me survive, but I learned how to thrive during difficult times. In our conversation today, we're going to reflect on that bond and the importance of support systems in times of crisis, and ultimately how our friendship helped shape the way I show up for others through mentorship and advocacy. Nickie, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, my friend.
It's so good to see you. It's so
Oh,
funny. I mean, we all have FaceTime, but it's the first time I've seen your
I
face
know.
since I think my birthday party a few years ago.
I
No,
know. I
we've been
know.
into the store too, so I have seen you before
Yeah,
since
yeah, yeah.
then. That's right. So I'd love to just
Yeah.
start out with giving you an opportunity to maybe think back to those early days and see what you recall from like the time when we first met to just working together and collaborating on things at work and ultimately to finding out that we had a lot of things in common and we liked the same
Yes.
extracurricular activities.
S- So much. Okay, so I I put so much thought into this, and I'm sure I know we met in a meeting or in the hallways or whatever, but that wasn't where the real bond or connection started. There was a certain basement white elephant Christmas party.
Know exactly what you're talking about.
And we had a really good time, all of us there. And I think we walked out of that and we're like, besties.
That's right.
And I came home. Do you remember what I came home with, or who I came home with besides Brad? Our white elephant gift was a
A
monkey
monkey. It
named
was. I do
Jojo.
remember that.
So it was like that for reals, and that became kind of, I mean, we're now in, I think, the third house since then, and Jojo has a twin now, and they're in the basement. But yeah, Jojo's here, and I think he was like our friendship mascot.
Mascot. Yeah.
So anyway, so yeah, that was the first time we were like, I think that's when we became inseparable.
I'm
And
surprised you
then I
didn't run.
remember
That was not my finest moment ever. I recall being on the floor in the
maybe that
kitchen of the host's
maybe
house.
that's why I But so that you bring up that, and we'll just dive into it. One of the big things with our friendship has always been truth, honesty, and just being very real. And I think from the beginning, we have seen each other deal with some very difficult things,
Absolutely.
from whether it's personal or professionally. We were kind of thrown into that cauldron
Yeah.
and dealt with it together, and we were both moving up in high stress jobs, and then high stress relationships, and kids, and everything. And I think that's when we really really jived, and just we're like, we can really lean on each other. But another thing is, I think, the respect between the two of
Absolutely.
us, and just not that we were in, because we weren't even in the same department, and not that there was competition there, but we definitely, I think, realized we could make each other better in
Yeah.
all aspects of life. So, but
I
yeah, I would
absolutely
say
agree.
that. And then, like, right after that famed party, pretty sure it was Kate's house,
It
we
was.
became inseparable, and became like crazy foodies, and had to
We
find all the
did.
good restaurants and drink and whatever, and enjoyed every bit of it. Maybe
It
not the next morning sometimes, but
That is true. Lots of regrets the next morning, but never a regret in the moment. And we did. We
Never.
like, I don't think a restaurant really got to be open for very long before we were there checking it out
Yeah,
for ourselves.
yeah.
Wines by Jennifer,
Mm,
100% is top of mind to me. We had some amazing times in there when it was just the owners and me, you,
yeah,
and the rest of our crew. And those times were so much fun too. Yeah,
for sure.
I recall a time in Las Vegas where we were in this crazy pool and I was like, what are we doing here? This is part of
It's
work.
just very much like, I mean, I have it tattooed on my body, carpe diem, and we're going to seize the day. We are gonna live in this moment, and I think through everything, that's just how we continue to live. You gotta power through and, deal with the cards we've both been dealt, and we gotta do it. We don't have a
Yeah.
choice.
I think that
So
we both have been really great examples of that, just knowing everything that we both have going on in our lives. We're still showing up. You're running a business and I mean, making a difference in the lives of everybody that's working for you. And I think that consistency of the way we show up, and even today, we can go months without chatting, and whenever we
Yep.
start chatting with each other, we pick right back up where we left off. And you know looking back on all the relationships that I've had in my life, I mean, these are the ones that matter the most, the ones that regardless of the time in between, the connection and the face-to-face time, we still have that ability to just pick right back up. And I mean, I definitely know, like, especially since my second diagnosis here this last 3 years, I mean, there hasn't been a day where I questioned that you weren't sending me great vibes and healing energy and
Mhm.
all of that. And I mean, that is so important because honestly, since the pandemic, I sort of went from an amazingly crazy, extroverted, super social person who,
Yeah,
never wanted to not be out and about, like in a great big crowd of people, to I kind of just want to stay at home most days and be like on the couch with my
yeah,
dogs and my husband.
yeah. Well, I think that's you learn. I have times because I have to be pretty on all the time. I remember, I don't know if I ever told you this, when I moved out here in 2001, I was married before, and first night we went to dinner, 75th Street Brewery. I don't know why I remember this. So I'm from a town in Ohio where my parents and my ex-in-laws were very well known. So when I went out and about after I graduated and moved back to my hometown and got married, when I went out, I needed to look the part. My mom would definitely agree with this. I'm rebellious. I mean, I follow the rules for the most part, but I'm an Aries, let's be realistic. I like to toe the line and whatever. And so I might have looked the part and I try to behave the part, but that just wasn't me all the time. So when we moved out to Kansas City, I remember we went to dinner and I went to dinner with, not that I wear a lot of makeup anyways, but no makeup. My hair was wet, like a t-shirt and jeans, and just didn't care. And I sat there and I'm like, this is me. I can be me out here. And then fast forward 20, 15 years or whatever, and I open a store and now I can't go anywhere because I can go places. I just need to be on my best behavior. But I'm
That's
also,
right.
I have a staff. I have a lot of customers who depend on me and lean on me. And I mean, I absolutely love the store. I opened it because I love dogs, but I opened it because I want to help people. And that's just that's my background. So I want to help people and their furry family members, and
Yeah.
so it's what I do. But I mean, I get it all the time. People are like, "I know you from," and I'm like, "Yes, let's behave." So
Right.
yeah,
It's probably good that we both have to maybe behave a little bit now. So it's
it's
interesting
good
because I
for
think back to
yeah.
the way we lived, and I mean, we worked hard, but we definitely played hard as well. And I think that's
Oh
how we
yeah,
sustained ourselves. I mean,
yeah.
none of us that worked at Platform had stress-free jobs. There was
No
stress
one.
around every aspect of what we did.
Yep.
But I think leaning on each other kind of made that stress, you know, a little bit easier to manage. And certainly when we had the opportunity to unwind, we were experts at that. And, you know,
Yeah.
that just thinking back to all of the things, Michael actually said it when we were on the call together. And I have such an aversion to when people say, you know, the people that you work with are like your family. But I think we probably would agree that the people that we surrounded ourselves with at that time in our lives, they really
Yeah.
were like our family. Like, I mean, I was still in the process of choosing who my family was going to be,
Yeah.
you know, as a
Yeah.
freshly out gay person. And I mean, I lucked into just amazing people who cared so much. But the best part is they felt like they could show up and be themselves. And that's how I felt. And
Yeah,
we
for
just did
sure.
our thing. So it was,
There's a past employee of Brad's actually, and she's amazing. And I remember she was new and she was doing like a little orientation to my department, to operations. And she said that her fiance's Alex was blah, 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 what Alex did for a living. And I said to her, "Oh, what's his favorite part or whatever?" And she goes, "Well, Alex is a she." And I'm like, "Oh, what's her favorite part?" And I admit, why would I? You
yeah, of
know me,
course.
I'm extremely open and everything. And she later was like, you didn't even flinch. And I'm like, why would I? And she's like, but
Yeah.
I get it. I definitely empathize. I'm gonna say I can relate, but it was a different world back then, and it's even
Yeah.
more polarized now. But yeah, you said something earlier, the family thing, and I think you and I did a really good job of, I think when you got there, because obviously when you got there, I had become very selective about who,
Yep.
and I think our ages too back then, that we'd been through our 20s, and
Yep.
we were mid 30s, I think, when we met. And it's when you become a little more selective. We had both been burned, and I'm like, I'm not gonna let just anyone in. They
Absolutely.
definitely didn't have a problem letting you in immediately, because it was very, very
And I felt
kindred
the same
spirit.
way. It's
Good.
interesting whenever you first like get a chance to talk with someone, you walk away from that conversation, you're like, this is a person that I can tell that I'm not only going to get along great with, but also like this person's going to be in my life. And
Yeah.
I know that that's how I felt. I mean, the energy was just like spot on match. And I think we quickly learned that we appreciated the same things both inside and outside of work. And that certainly solidified it. And then we just kind of went on about life and just tried to make the most of, you know, all the time that we
Yeah.
could whenever we weren't at work. So it,
Do you remember do you remember our first, I would say, outing? Like when we were in necessarily the area. I remember I was really down a little bit. Angie made me get out. She's like, "No, we've got this date with the boys. We're
I
going." And I'm like,
do.
"Okay." Quite possibly one of my favorite days ever.
I
I mean,
agree. And it
definitely. Would
actually
we
ended
start
at
at
our
Wines by
little,
Jennifer?
what's that? You
Do
know,
we
I don't
s do
know
we
if we, I
start at Wines by Jennifer and then go to Pearl or
yeah, we
Weston?
ended up
And we
in
went to
Weston for
Weston,
sure. And
and then and
we,
that's why we did New Year's there, like,
right,
I think a couple years later or whatever.
in a
But
limo in the
that
snow going
day,
uphill. That was a
fly
great time.
the Weston at New Year's Eve, Brad and I flew in from Ohio. And I
Right.
think you had posted, or maybe someone else said, "Come hell or high water, if I have to go pick them up at the airport, they're gonna make it down," because we had to like rush
Yes.
down, and we limoed it up to Weston.
It
We
was a
made
great
it.
time.
It's awesome.
It
Good
was a
news.
little
Yeah.
scary when we left because the limo driver got stuck going up a hill. And I'm like, oh my God, if this is the way the whole ride home is going to be, I'm going to be like a freaking nervous wreck.
I think we sobered up immediately
Oh, we totally did.
because it was
And I
scary.
think
That was
it had
scary.
been a kind of an all afternoon and evening affair. And
Yeah.
yeah, we woke up really quick and we're just kind of like white knuckling it
Yeah.
like for part of that ride. Um, but all of
Did
those
they have
times like
seatbelts in the
that.
back of that? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even think they did actually, which is the craziest
We
thing.
didn't
And if
use them.
we definitely did not use them. Um,
Totally.
but yeah, there's so many awesome things like that we were able to experience. And I mean, I really do feel like, especially kind of like post my diagnosis in my 30s, I mean, I feel like that was really kind of what fueled me to want to like check everything off my bucket list like as soon as I possibly
Yeah.
could because of uncertainty and obviously hindsight being 2020. I know now that what I went through then was like barely scratching the surface of the iceberg. And yeah, it's,
I can't believe that because that was at the beginning, September 2012 was right?
yep,
2012, right?
it's the anniversary of it, like in 6 days, both my first diagnosis and the confirmation of my second diagnosis.
Yeah, 10 years later, it's unreal. I just remember thinking, something obviously something bad happened at the beginning of that month, and then you were obviously very upset and having digestive issues. And I know Angie and I were like, and you were like, this has got to be just because of the
It's
stress
stressful.
and
Yeah.
everything. And the did Angie take you to that appointment
Yeah, I think she did. It was that she took me to the colonoscopy
or the
and she was
colonoscopy?
actually
Yeah,
in the room whenever the doctor was on the phone, like talking to someone else. And he was like, basically said colon cancer. And we both heard it. And then she and I went
yeah,
and we ate at the Grand Street Cafe afterwards. And I'm like, well, you heard it too, right? He basically said that. Now I'm just waiting however long until he decides to confirm it with me. And yeah, that was a pretty dreadful. I mean, that was the beginning of just like a absolutely horrible month of September. And to this day, September is the month that I would like to
yeah. We
press
need to
fast
like
forward
just
through.
fast forward. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd say we could
exactly.
go fast forward August. A lot of good things in August.
Yeah,
So no September, and then go to October, which is a phenomenal month. Maybe a little birthday month
that's right. Exactly.
for
I mean,
you.
I'd definitely like, let's get into that and Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. Like, I'd much rather deal with
Yes.
all of those fun things than September. Or you think about, just I think the shared experience that we had at work and how that really set kind of a like set the stage for us to connect outside of work. What do you think about those shared experiences really kind of crystallized everything for us? Because we obviously, even though we didn't work really in overlapping roles, I mean, we always found a way to like talk about work and to, even solve problems that maybe weren't ours to solve. I think we were both really good at that.
Yeah, for
But is there
sure.
anything that stands out to you from that? And I guess even more importantly than that, how does like knowing how great of a support system you were to me, has that like impacted the way you show up for even your employees today? Because I can only imagine that you're the type of boss that those folks love to work for and that you create such a great safe space for them. Anything that you can say, especially for the people that are listening that might want some relationship tips or how to show up as a leader?
Whew. So Michael, me having the opportunity of working at that company from the get-go, or not from the get-go, but I miss the barn when they all talk about they were in the shed or whatever. I missed that by a second. But I was like number 50 some, I think. And being able to grow and learn and grow with the company with Michael at the helm is whoa, what a blessing, and to watch someone like Michael and other people there, Steve Booth and Joy and so many people, but grow with obviously Tracy and Mike. I gotta mention them, but
Yeah,
we were just learning as we went and just really pushed each other. And then when you joined, it was like you were part of that original mentality. It's like, where it's like we need to be okay, not comfortable, but okay with having difficult conversations and confrontations because it's just part of life.
right.
So I think that's part of it. My mom used to say to me, I wish I was as confrontational as you. And I said, I'm that way with you because you can't stop loving me. You can't fire me. But it is part of part of leadership is difficult conversations. I will say I'm not nearly as good at it right now with my staff than it's different. We're spoiling puppies. But my big thing, and I learned Michael made us all kind of figure out who we were and as people, not just platformers.
Yep.
And we went through a lot of different exercises and read a ton of books, and I was at the helm of a lot of that. But we read a book about servant leadership, and that's kind of it just resonated with me. And recently, Jensen, my daughter, was baptized as an adult. And the service that day was about God's will, et cetera, and what's God's will for you, et cetera, and or for each of us. And we left there and we had a conversation about it. I'm like, what's his will for me? I'm like, it was so crystal clear. Mine has always been servant leadership. So whether I'm leading an operations department or a household, my kids, or my staff at a dog bakery or other bakeries, doing leadership type of stuff like that. It's all, how can I help you do your job better? And I'm gonna do my job a certain way, and hopefully you learn from me, because that's kind of, I think, that servant leadership. That's, you just gotta. I knew when I was at Platform, I knew how to do everyone's job in my department. I wanted them to know that I understood what struggles they were going through. So I think that's a really big part of leadership is, what is it, the difference between management and leadership, right? Like, you need to be able to relate to your employees and not bark orders, and
Yeah.
have difficult conversations, have real conversations, but really be able to relate, because you're not going to win with them. Another thing Michael stressed was, and we read stuff about it, the balance of fear, love, respect. That is huge. And that
Yep.
is in every single part of life, whether I'm, you know, my relationship with my kids, my parents, our dogs. Like, I mean, employees, you have to have that balance to thrive.
Yeah. I
So,
absolutely agree. And, talking about servant leadership and things like that, I had always, I think, approached my professional life from that perspective because growing up in a church, that is what the church also taught was servant leadership. And so I feel like I had embraced that at a really early age. And whenever I landed at Platform, I feel like that's the first time I had ever worked someplace where that actually was an ideology or a core belief of the organization. And we were really fortunate. We worked for some amazing leaders. The coolest part about those leaders was they all led with their hearts. And
yeah,
you don't find that everywhere, especially in the higher ed space, which we were in. It
yeah,
just doesn't show up, like not at the client level, not, I mean, that isn't typically, they're very, the folks that we worked with were very focused on, the bottom line and revenue. And obviously we had revenue goals too, but when you look at the people that we were working with and the people that we were influencing, it truly was about how do we help them grow? How do we support them and their role? And really just showing up for them. And I think it was a really great thing for me to get to experience at that level because the job that I'm in now, I'm fortunate enough to be able to have that kind of impact, not only on
yeah,
people who are new to the agency world, but even for some of the leaders that have been leading, for a good chunk of time, being able to, you know, share information about how you take a work relationship and make that into something where trust is a foundation and where people feel like you're a safe space where when they have a challenge or they've made a mistake, they can come to you and share that with you. I think Platform did a really good job of teaching me that if you show up authentically, you do your best work, everything works out in the end. And I think I feel like I live and breathe that even today, that, the things that started back then have just kind of cascaded on throughout the rest of my professional life. So we were really fortunate to work with the crew that we worked with.
yeah,
So
yeah,
every episode, as you probably know by now, I read a letter that I have put together during chemo treatments and recovering from radiation and surgery and so on and so forth. And this episode's not any different. I want to share this with you and just kind of express how I feel about you. And then I'll give you a moment to take it all in. And I'm going to let you share a final thought. Then I'm going to share a final thought. And we're going to let everybody stop listening today. And I'm going to also give them a challenge. So, all right. Nickie, from the first moment we met at Platform, I knew our friendship was something extra special. Those years when we were inseparable, those weekends filled with new restaurants, wine tastings, laughing, dancing, to this day, they remain some of the fondest memories that I have of my 30s and my early 40s. You were more than a friend, you were family, and you are family. When I faced my first cancer diagnosis, your support became something that I will never forget. You stood by me when everything was new and terrifying. And because of the strength that I found in our relationship, I didn't just survive through that time, I was able to really thrive. You showed me what true support looks like. And in doing so, you helped shape the way that I show up for others facing cancer today. Through mentorship, fundraising, and advocacy, I try to give back in the same way that you so selflessly gave me. Your friendship taught me what I could expect from friends and family who were trying to support me in the best way that they could. And today, I accept nothing less. And that is a huge thing, especially when you're on this sort of journey. Nickie, I am endlessly grateful for you, for your loyalty, your laughter, your love. And I want you to know that you have made a lasting impact on my life. And again, whether it's a chat once a week, once a month, I always carry your support with me every day. And I can feel that. And that is truly invaluable. I love you. I have so much gratitude and appreciation for you. And I truly thank you for sharing some of the most amazing and precious memories that I have. I love you.
I love you.
Oh. I've gotten
Well,
better at making through those letters. My eyes are started to
yeah,
water, but I don't break
that was
down quite as
good.
much as I used to. And that actually was a goal that I had set for myself. I would want to try to somewhat detach my own emotions. I think I have figured out how to do that. So,
That
um,
was phenomenal.
is there anything as we wrap up today that you might leave as a parting word to anybody that's listening? A life lesson or something that you think is imperative that everybody walk away knowing?
So I wrote some notes
Yeah.
because I wanted to make sure yeah, there's so much. And for everyone listening, for Kris to keep me slightly on point, on task is the biggest feat of the year, I think. So it's pretty great. So I mentioned earlier, I have Carpe Diem written on my body. I try to embody at least, not obviously not every day, not everything every day, but at least something every day where I'm making a point to just not let the day get by without doing something I need to be doing. But I think a big thing with our friendship, because it's spanned, you know, years and years and years through so many trials, but a big thing is distance. And it's easy to be really great friends with someone when you share the same hallways with them and we're going to go to dinner afterwards or we're going to whatever and we're in the same proximity of the town, etc. But to be able to hold on in when you're on the other side of the world, not world, country, coast, it's all about effort. And when I was thinking about words to describe our friendship, effort was it was up there. Like I said, it's easy to be great friends when space and time aren't the issues. And we have thrived. And I'm not saying it's always been easy because, we're going through a bunch of different things and life transitions are and difficulties bring up a lot of difficulties in friendships too.
Yeah.
But I think for us, effort, our history, our honesty, humility, but your comfort, you're just when your name pops up on my phone or I get to see your beautiful face, it just is pure comfort. And I thank you for that.
Feel the exact same way
Just
about
thank
you.
you. Yeah. So I
And you
love
know
you.
that you kind of said it best, like you get to be the gatekeeper of who you let in your life. And not all of us are great at making the right decisions. Quite honestly,
Yeah.
I feel like some people struggle with that for 2/3 of their life before they realize that everything they need, they already have. And
Yeah.
that's how I feel about my support system. Like, I mean, regardless of where I've, acquired a relationship throughout life, I mean, I've tried to treasure those relationships. And again, even when there's silent times and, we aren't talking to each other on a regular basis, there's not a moment that I ever doubt or question that I could pick up the phone and call you and say, "Oh my God, I really need your ear." Or could you come and
Yep.
sit with me for this or that? And I know that you would be there. And I hope that you obviously know that as well, because I feel the same way towards you. And I think that's where we'll leave it for today, because I think that after listening to us chat, we've absolutely sparked a desire or a need in someone to reach out to somebody that maybe they have let that connection get a little quiet,
Yeah.
or it's their turn to send the text message or place that FaceTime call. And that's my challenge to anybody that's listening today, is that when you push stop or pause on this podcast episode, that you take that moment and you reach out to one of those people and you say, "Hey, I just want to tell you hello and I love you." And sometimes that's all we need, is for that name to pop up on our
Yep.
screen and there to be just a 5-word message of love or appreciation or gratitude. And oftentimes that's all the spark that you need to get things back to where they were, whenever they were at their best. So that's my challenge to everyone listening today. Thanks for listening. And as always, say the damn thing when you feel it, and don't leave these things unsaid. Just say it. And that's where we'll end for today. I hope you all come back next Tuesday. We'll have another episode with another conversation and another letter that I'm going to try to make it through. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.